Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Justin the Food Entrepreneur Show. I'm Justin Bizzarro. I'm your host. That's Bizzarro. For anyone who's out there trying to find us, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook. You can also find this show anywhere you listen or find podcasts. Grow yourself through them. That's the whole point of this show. I hope everyone is using the resources that are out there, guys. Not only podcasts in the audience, but we have a lot of free resources out there. Everyone's always like, Justin, where do you find stuff? Well, I don't even know how many books have been written just in the last 2 years alone by very smart businessmen and women. So that's a start. And then the other one, guys, is there's podcasts, there's mentor groups, there's church groups, there's anything that you can find out there, that there's places that you can look to. And if you're dealing with an issue, I get this a lot because I talk about it a lot. Yes, I had to conquer demons to be a successful entrepreneur. And the reason being is whatever my sin was as a leader, whatever amount of employees I had, you can guarantee that that sin was also in them because I was attracting it in my business. And I was compounding it in my business as a result of being a leader in it. So when we don't deal with it, or we don't grow, or we don't look at our spiritual maladies or imperfections and work on them, that's what happens, guys. We create companies with no matter how great their core values are or whatever, there's an underlying thing that happens, no matter how big the company is. You can always tell what kind of company is there based on the leader, even publicly. It's true. So, that being said, I have a very special guest with us, Ashley Bock from Advanced Inhalation Rituals, or AIR, out of Charlotte, North Carolina, but really out of South Africa. How are you doing today, Ashley?
I'm very well, and yourself, Justin. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Okay, we did it all in pre-recording, but I'm obsessed with this story a little bit because I like the new business ideas. I like taking traditional things that are being done, hot dogs, I'll give an example, and when entrepreneurs are actually starting to elevate it into advanced restaurants, food, things that can be stamped out. So in this case, we're talking about hookahs. We know it. It's something that's been around a very long time, hundreds of years. But at the same time, it's starting to become more and more present in society, particularly in the United States and around the world. And so I think there's a growing industry here. So I like this. Some people create the business. I'll give an example. Some people are the people in 1849 running to the gold rush, and some people are Wells Fargo. So we know who still has the company and who doesn't. All those who rushed to get gold, most of them didn't get rich, but Wells Fargo is still around. So that's why I like this model. That's why I liked what Advanced Inhalation Rituals is doing. But first, Ashley, let's talk about you a little bit. Let's talk about your story. What brought you to be a member of the team building this across the world and in the United States? So I'm going to give you the mic for a little bit, and it's all yours. Take as long as you want, and let's dive into it. Let's talk about your story.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Justin. So as you already mentioned, I'm originally from South Africa. I've spent basically the last 13 years in global marketing, building and scaling brands across different markets in the US, the Middle East, Greater China, as well as Sub-Saharan Africa. My career is mostly centered around culturally relevant brands in the past, right? Really taking those brands, developing the brand strategy, the product innovations, and making them still culturally relevant to their history. What brought me to where I am now with Advanced Inhalation Rituals was really not taking a brand which was culturally relevant, but an entire category of hookah. And I thought that was quite an exciting thing to try and shape the entire category and maintain that culture, but also move it forward into the modern times. I think what we've done with OOKA is we've really taken a centuries-old ritual and we've modernized with innovation and design. It really, represents the intersection of tradition and forward thinking. I think you mentioned that already. So for me, it was a natural extension for my career, moving into this category where we can really shape this cultural category, modernize it, and bring it into the future.
Let's talk about our hookah in general. Okay, let's talk about the industry, why get into it. I want to dive into that as a topic, so I'm going to earmark this. But I want to talk about first building markets internationally, because it from an American perspective, let's just put it into American perspective. We may not have 2 billion people but we have such a large marketplace, we often don't have to look outside the United States for our markets. So I think from an audience perspective, an American perspective, an entrepreneur perspective, and this is one of the reasons I did my one MBA at University of North Carolina, guys, and was a partnership with 4 other universities around the world in Hong Kong, Rotterdam, Mexico, and Sao Paulo, Brazil, GADE and FGV. And the reason for that is because I didn't, even in the United States, even studying international business undergrad, you don't get the exposure because our market's so big by volume of dollars. So we often don't have to look outside of it, at least initially. So what's interesting is I think the international market compared to the United States looks internationally first. If we're going to build this, what also is the appeal internationally, where we just look at our market? We don't often think of the international piece as part of our perspective. But you have experience in this, Ashley. I want to talk about what it's like to go into new markets and try to build on an international level, language barriers, cultural barriers, all those things, because you have experienced it and you are in a part of the world that just lives that way anyway. So I'm talking about something that may just be normal to you.
Yeah, I think, look, regardless of which market you're in, there's always that deep consumer insight which sticks. All right. So if you take any category, why do people like using ketchup as an example, right? I mean, people like ketchup because it tastes good. It's the additive. It depends what they add it to, and that's where the cultural nuances come. They're going to use it, but what are they going to use it on? And I think when we look at hookah and building it on an international basis, there's always this, insight that hookah is the social moment. It is what brings people together. It's usually not done, on your own. It's done as part of a group setting. It's part of a gathering. It's a social experience. And I think leveraging on that has helped us grow this, into these international markets, showing people that, you can meet someone for a cup of coffee, but you're sitting there with your cup of coffee and probably your cell phone in your hand. Hookah is put in the middle of the table. It's the centerpiece. It's what people focus around, and it gets people conversing. It gets people talking to each other. It really elevates those social moments. And that's what we focus on globally is, when we talk about our company, Advanced Inhalation Rituals, we're really a social inhalation company. Right? We're trying to create these moments for people to come together and, build those networks with each other. I think everything in marketing, any brand where you go around the world, is really just getting to the root of what that deep consumer insight is, why are consumers using that product, and then leveraging their cultural nuances to build on that insight. And I think that's what we've taken when I worked in my previous company, which was also a global organization, is leveraging those deep consumer insights and adding on those cultural nuances to it.
I love this. So are you a fan of hookah yourself? Let's talk about that, because it's a leap. To me, I'm like, okay, I have to love what I'm doing. I have to be interested in it. So you have a passion for it. So let's talk about that. Is it something that you know a lot about before you got into it and you took this leap, and something that you were interested in, or you just thought there was an opportunity there?
No, absolutely. In my college days back in South Africa, hookah was quite a big part of the college experience. You would sit around, you would smoke a hookah on the steps at your university. And you would go out to hookah bars. Lots of your bars would have hookahs in them. So in my youth, I did, consume quite a lot of hookah, and it was usually quite a big piece of our core, friends group. You'd be going out for a night or going to someone's house for a barbecue, and the one question I was always asked is, who's bringing the hookah? So it was a big piece of my younger days. And then for a few years, I didn't do it anymore, especially when I lived over in Asia, because it's not so prominent over in Hong Kong, China area. So not much hookah was consumed there. But when I got the opportunity to jump back into the category, I thought about how relevant this was to me and my friends when we were younger. And I thought this is a really cool, exciting category, especially when you start talking about the different flavors, the mixing, the mixologists which go into it. You get these guys which are literally hookah connoisseurs, right? They're your very experienced users. They're the ones driving the flavor movements. They drive the flavors around. They mix them. We've got influencers online who have built their entire careers and their entire personality around hookah in different markets. We've got some here in the US. You've got quite a large group of them, especially in Europe, in Germany and Spain. where they built the entire community around influencing hookah movements and trying different flavors. And I think that's the part which was also quite exciting, is about not just from a social aspect, on the ground of you conversing with your friends, but also from a online world, how cool this really can be. It's taking your cocktails and in your alcoholic beverage industry and you're moving it into this hookah category where people are there's some brands out there which are creating bacon flavors. There's cheesecake, there's caramel popcorn, but then the dominant ones are still just your fruity mixes, which people are creating and coming up with their own flavor combinations and their own flavor names. And it's all about experimenting and trying and seeing what works. And I think that's quite a fun part of the category as well, is the fact that you can create yourself, right? You can do it yourself.
Yeah, I love this. I will say this. I did have a hookah in my house from, I think it was probably like 2005 to 2008, 2009. Like it just sat on the kitchen table. I think I was in my younger years, in my 20s. I was young, and I was doing fairly well, but a lot of people always over, a lot of people cooking, barbecuing on weekends or nights or games when I wasn't working. And the hookah was always there. It definitely was part of the experience. I think any of my friends listening in or ex-girlfriends would probably know that hookah there. But it was a part of the experience. It was a major part of it. And it was hard to deal with. Honestly, the thing that ended it was just trying to deal with the hot coal all the time. And I just got tired of it, if I were to be honest. But so the system, the other reason why I took so much interest in the podcast is because the system works. I like it. And I'm in Colorado. I know what marijuana is doing, and I know what vape pens are doing, and what it's done for the industry in terms of that industry. And so it's the same. And this is an opportunity for restaurants to offer more, or for entrepreneurs to build a concept that offers more also, because it is social. And even if everyone's not doing it around you, it's a cool environment there. It is a social thing. And I agree. It's as good as breaking bread. I think that's the difference between what we would say traditionally, which is singular smoking, or in this case, you're passing around something, or in the case of marijuana, they would call it passing the bowl. There's a social interaction in certain ones of these things. That's also why they're popular for everyone. It's like eating, we eat in groups for a reason. We feel better as humans. Let's talk about bringing this to market. It's an international brand. You're obviously in the United States and you're trying to build it here. What does that look like for you? You're going into a new market. You're part of that market and you're trying to grow it. And you've moved basically to a new place, maybe. So what does that look like for you, Ashley? How do you build this here?
Yes. So I think, first step was really just understanding the category in the US. I think one thing that we've noticed with, the overall hookah category is each market is slightly different. It has, once again, its nuances in terms of what are the flavor profiles people like? Where do they like to consume hookah? Is it more of a home consumption country versus a social consumption country where they consume it out at lounges or nightclubs or hotels, poolside? And I think that was the first, step of understanding the market, is where do consumers consume it? What do they like to consume? And what are some of their pain points around it? And I think that's what we started to find in the US, and where we started to shift away from your traditional hookah to, really identifying that this OOKA device was a key win for us here in the US. People like to consume it out of home. Majority of our users in the US do that. They consume it during social occasions and nightclubs, etc. But hookah wasn't widely available, traditional hookah, because of the, staff complexity around setting up. You mentioned it yourself, Justin, that you stopped consuming it because you were tired of dealing with the coals and the messy tobacco and the ash and everything. Hookah just simplified the entire process by allowing, it's an electronic device. It's basically plug and play. It's intuitive. The pods come pre-packed with flavored tobacco, and all a consumer or a staff member has to do is literally turn it on, pop in the pod, close the lid, and the device does the rest. So it's really just, it's very intuitive. And like I said, it's plug and play. And it just reduces a lot of the barriers for consumers to be able to, for locations to be able to carry the OOKA, and have hookah as part of their menu offering. And two, it allows consumers to be able to find it in more locations, right? In locations where they want to do it. And I think that's where OOKA comes in. It's just easier for locations, lounges, hotels to carry the product. They don't need to have specialized staff. They don't need to worry about coals falling over and burning holes in their carpets or their furniture. And, there's no mess. I think this is the dream about OOKA and why it was a natural move for us here in the US to start pushing the OOKA device.
Well, I like this a lot. I have a lot of thoughts in my head. I'm sure you guys have all done this, but it's like, okay, so there's a lot of markets there. It's like the restaurateurs, the smoke shops that are so popular here in the United States now that are popping up everywhere, somewhat because of the marijuana industry, but also because of the speciality of flavored tobacco, marijuana, terpenes, all Delta 8 in some places, Delta 10. So there's a lot of opportunities to sell something like this in different markets. I know the United States is definitely prepped for it and prepared. So, how do you, if someone wants one or someone's trying to build a restaurant on it, what's the avenue to get them? Do they deal directly with you guys? Do you deal with dealers? Both? Talk to me a little bit about the model.
Yes. So at the moment, we deal directly with all lounges, retailers, etc. The reason we want that is because we want to be able to control the service that we provide to them. We want to make sure that we're providing the right level of service, we're providing the right level of guidance to make sure that we can get you up on your feet. So the best place to look us up is through our e-commerce website, which is us.ooka.com. We have a portal in there. We have two devices, just to start. We have one device which is specifically focused around home use. And then we have what's called the OOKA Pro device, which is a device which is specifically designed for, use in lounges, nightclubs, bars, restaurants, all of that. And you can find them both on our website. We have our team, our entire OOKA team who provides the white glove service from making sure you have the right devices, the right pods, the right flavors for your location, providing training, providing support for promoting the product, helping you with menus if you need menus for your location. So we like to keep it in-house with us and quite close to the heart so that we can make sure we're really growing this brand the right way and positioning the brand the right way. I think it's important, especially at the start, to make sure you're hitting all these right notes with the whoever it is, the restaurateurs, the owners, all the consumers, that we own the narrative and we want to keep owning that narrative for the immediate future.
I like this a lot. There's a lot of applications here, even for a food truck or a food trailer or different concepts here, because it is so portable and it's so easy to use by popping a pod in, and there's sealed. So there's I have a lot of ideas here. I'm going to ask it because the audience is probably going to ask me if anyone's interested, but talk to me a little bit about the benefit to the business, profitability. I assume it's no different than alcohol. There's a set profit margin that's there that's a little bit more significant because it's a convenience item. But talk to me a little bit about, do you guys recommend stuff like that? How do you help people price it if it's something new or they're not used to doing it? Do you guys help in that? Or is it just like, here's what it is, figure it out? Because I'm curious a little bit, because have never put one in my restaurant, for example.
Yeah. No worries. No, I think you're out there. So for us, what we would provide is we would work directly with, whoever the contact is. We would work with them directly to identify what sort of pricing they can set this product at, how to promote it within their location, provide them with all the training to make sure that their staff is able to operate it correctly. We provide, direct contact. So if there's any issues with the device or with the pods, we're able to resolve it immediately. In terms of one of our big hurdles in the beginning was convincing a lot of locations that OOKA wasn't just a gadget, right? It wasn't just another gadget for them to put in their shop and be like, oh, look what we have. It was a revenue driver. Just like you said, with alcohol, right? It's an added benefit for their consumers. It's an added experience for them and not just a sideline item. It can become a core offering for them. We really had to educate the operators on this and build trust with them through the activations, through the training. And that contains everything, right? Like you said, the guidance in terms of how to price this product out, what pricing we can offer them, what training we can offer them, how to guide consumers into which flavors they would like. If a consumer comes in and says, "Well, I'd like to try it, but I don't know what flavor I'd like," we even provide guidance on that. So I think it's a really comprehensive program that we offer to restaurateurs and locations to get you set up and get you running with OOKA.
I like this a lot just because I think people's hesitation is always, oh, what's the support? What's the training? How do I build something like this? I have no experience in this, but I want to add it in because I see the value there. There is value there, guys. Adding a social interaction into your restaurant or business or building a business puts butts in seats longer, and everyone's like, oh, I'm in the business of turning tables. I understand that, but there's also the business of butts in seats, longer butts in seats. They drink, they snack, they graze. It's a different model. It's a more patient model, but you build better relationships with your customers if they're there longer and they have more impact on your business. I'm going to emphasize that sometimes our mindset is backwards, guys, and we're thinking of selling. We're not thinking of humans, and humans need fellowship. That's why something like this is so great. And if you build that for them, that's a very loyal customer. I'm just going to anchor that. I'll leave it there. I want to talk about this a little bit with you personally, Ashley. I'm just going to say this statistic. So I just saw a thing where over 40% of Americans still live within 25 miles of the high school they went to. So obviously in America, and I haven't read the statistic internationally, but it just popped out at me. That means that a majority of us don't leave to go somewhere else to try a new business, especially a new country. So this is something you've done. You're traveled, you've made sure you've bounced into Asia, you've done the international business experience with intent, personally. So I'm going to just take the focus off the hookah for a second and on you, because I think a lot of people suffer with wanting to make this step maybe and don't. And I think the other part is how do I even begin to find an international job if I want one? Those two questions.
Yeah, look, I think the initial step was hard, right? You leave a lot of your family, you leave your friends behind, you leave what you know behind. And I think it was at the time when I was making my first move out of South Africa internationally, it was more about looking towards a long-term future. What opportunities does this further open my doors to? And one of them was, cultural exposure, understanding different markets, testing your experience, right? So if you're moving in a professional career, you might be good at what my thought at the time was, I'm good at what I do in South Africa because I understand South Africans. But can I also be good at what I do in other countries and understand them? Can I build on that? And can I gain that experience? And I think what it opened me up to was just all these different cultures. That was the best part about moving around, is learning new cultures, trying different foods. I'm really looking forward to just being open and experiencing all the things that these different countries and different nationalities can offer. And I think that was the first step, is just saying to myself, be open to exploring, be open to trying new things, and good things will come out of it. And they have. And I've been outside of my home country for almost 7 years now, moved 3 times during those 7 years to different, continents, different countries. And I think it's been an absolute ride. I look back on it now and it was the best decision I ever made, not just career-wise, but also personal-wise. I've experienced so much, the different foods that have been incredible in these different countries. The people that, we built communities in all these different markets that wherever my wife and myself move in the future, we've got friends there. We've got people that we can rely on. We've got people to go visit and see and talk to. And we've got stories, right? We've got lots of stories to tell. And I think that's something I look back on and go, this has been an incredible journey. All these, just complete experiences and stories that we have for our life going forward. Has it been easy though, picking up and moving each and every time, picking up a family, moving them across the world? That's probably the hardest part of it. But once you're there in the market, as long as you just stay open to new experiences, you're going to enjoy it and you're going to have a good time. And, home will always be home. You'll never get rid of that. But you can make new communities and you can make new places which become part of your life. And I think that's been a really incredible experience for myself and my wife.
Yeah, I love it. I found a statistic, or it's a U.S. Census statistic, 60% live within 10 miles of their high school in the United States, but that leaves 40% that still are traveling. So there's a group, and I'm not saying one's better than the other. I'm just saying that exposure to the world, I believe, is very important to being a leader in this world, especially as our population grows and as the future comes and we need to be more unified as humanity under maybe one kingdom or one thing as we go explore the stars and have to grow our population off this planet, because I don't know where else we're going to go. There's only so much. But at the same time, the reason I say that and get people thinking about it is because what we're talking about here in the hookah is something on a very micro level that leads to something very large, like I just talked about. If we break bread, if we socialize, if we have an open mind to other cultures, to the world around us, whether we live close or not, it doesn't matter. We can still expose ourselves to the world. We can travel, we can read, we can watch movies, we can listen to podcasts, we can do whatever. But my point being, to anchor all this with the question for the audience is I know we get busy being entrepreneurs and we get busy building our businesses, and so many people, quote unquote, rely on us. But the truth is sometimes we are better served or better serving as leaders when we take a break and we go see something and we go experience different food and we bring something back with us to our business, not just stay where we are. I get a lot of this, I need a vacation. It's been 9 years, I haven't had a vacation. Well, don't call it a vacation if that's the word you're afraid of. Just say I'm going to do some research and eat my way through Italy for my business. Change the mindset or the perspective, and then you don't feel bad for going because it is for your business. But my point being, guys, we need to go experience the world, break bread with lots of people, hookahs, food, beverages, passing a bowl, bong, whatever. I don't know what it is that you do. Campfires, that's big here in Colorado right now. Same in Australia and same in countries like Africa. We're seeing this boom in overlanding, we call it here. In Australia, I don't know what they call it in South Africa, but caravanning maybe. And that's because there's a community growing around that does it. They just want to get away and they just want to be around humans. No TVs, no radios, no nothing. They just want to socialize. And why is that growing? Because the world, humans by our nature, are realizing that we need to be in social environments more right now. For whatever reason, that is what we're doing. All the noise in the world, we're trying to escape from it just to get back to our basics, which this provides. Hookah provides, and it allows us as entrepreneurs, if you want to be in this type of business in food and beverage, to provide it for your audience. And like I said, when you do things like this, when you provide what I would call family gatherings or friendships in loving ways that are socializing, if you're going to smoke a hookah together, you're spending a lot of time together, most likely, so you probably like each other or trying to get to like each other. So you're providing a service there for people. And if you're not, and you're doing it in your home and you're buying these for your home, listen, it's a really cool experience. I had them in my home. It brought everyone together. Everyone would come over just to have a hookah thing in the neighborhood, like once or twice a week. It led to a lot of things, a lot of cool experiences, parties, all the things, because it's a great talking point also, guys. It's a talking point for your restaurant. It's a talking point for your home. Okay, Ashley, let's talk about a little bit about my last question, which will be, this company's huge. Looks like, probably lots of employees across lots of countries right now, comparatively. I don't know how big, but it's growing and it has and it should be, because it's providing something amazing. How do you then, in your experience maybe, or how do you guys look at this? You're building something here. You're going to build it in multiple markets. I'm not going to ask this question in the right way, but from a strategy standpoint as a company, I think, how do you look at going into a new market and breaking ground? Where are the first places you start? Because you are new, because your product isn't there yet, and you almost are having to put boots on the ground and start and gain momentum. It's like starting all over again in every place you go in some ways.
Yeah. So to be honest, with the hookah industry in general, a lot of where hookah has grown in markets around the world has been because of your Middle Eastern diaspora, because it's such a big cultural, tradition in the Middle East. where there's a big Middle Eastern community, there will be hookah. And they're usually the ones that would start this trend in a community. So looking at new markets, we do often try and identify whether there is a big enough Middle Eastern community in that market to then go in there with our products. From that stage where we try and introduce our product first and foremost is into the HORECA channel, into the hotels, the restaurants, the lounges, where we can introduce our brand, get our brand familiar with consumers, where they have, let's call it like a low investment in trying something new, right? They're not going out and buying an OOKA. They're not going out and spending the money on it, but they're able to try it in a location where the investment's minimal. And if they love it, they take it, they can go and buy it. And we really start our product, in our market from the ground up. So getting into these HORECA channels, allowing consumers to trial it and test it. And then we grow from these HORECA channels into your retails, into your e-commerce, into your wholesalers, your distributors, etc., and start to grow the business that way. But, as lots of companies will call it grassroots marketing, our grassroots marketing in air really starts with, your Middle Eastern communities and then your HORECA channels to try and get people to experience something new, as you mentioned, Justin, giving people that opportunity to say, hey, I'm willing to try this. Let's give it a bash and see if we enjoy it.
Appreciate it. The answer for sure and the honesty. What is there anything you talk about the product, what it does that we didn't cover on the show yet that you would like to talk about, or anything that maybe you saw in the questions or anything that I didn't mention that you want to mention before I sort of really ask my last question?
Yeah. No, I think when it comes to OOKA, right, as I said, it's an electronic device. It's pre-packed pods. It's easy. It's simple. I think for people that have experienced issues like you did in the past, Justin, with, not wanting to manage the charcoal, not wanting the mess, not wanting to manage the tobacco, this is a way for you to once again start rebuilding those social connections, start rebuilding those traditions with whoever you want to, and in a simple, intuitive way, a way which makes life easier for you guys. It gives people more time to spend together rather than you having to spend time watching the charcoal burning. Right? I think that goes the same for the hotels and restaurants. We want consumers to spend time there. We want them to have an elevated experience in these locations and providing them with more, right? Beyond just the food and the alcohol, the food and the cocktails. You're providing them with more experiences. And OOKA really is something which can do that for consumers. Something which gets, as you said, bums in the seats. It keeps bums in the seats and it gives people this elevated experience at a location where they go home and say, hey, I had a really good time at XYZ. This is what we did. And I think that's what OOKA does, is it elevates these experiences for the consumers at these locations. And we really just want everyone to be a part of this. We want people to enjoy it. So that's why we created this. Right? We wanted it to be, clean, safe, intuitive. And we didn't want people to lose that social magic around the hookah tradition.
Amazing. Who has been your biggest influences in your life? Managers, teachers, professors, parents? Talk to me a little bit about that, because there's been guidance, I think, or maybe some positive influences and some investment in you to get to where you are. Maybe it's just in yourself. But let's talk about it a little bit, Ashley, because I think there's a lot there. You're making big moves, but you're also in the right industry, and this is becoming more and more popular on an international level. So, but my question being mentorship, leadership, guidance for you.
Yeah. I mean, to start with, both my parents, big influences on me. My father was an entrepreneur himself, owned his own business, grew it from the ground up. He was, a smart man. He made the right calls. And, where he gave me a lot was just looking out for his family. And I think he's always influenced me a lot on that side of things, is, make the decisions that will benefit you in the long term, benefit your family in the long term. And I think he guided me a lot with that. I got a lot from my father. My mother, she was always an inspiration. She was always the biggest cheerleader, no matter what we did, no matter what decision we made. And to be brutally honest, when I was finishing high school, I had no idea what I wanted to study. I took a gap year after high school. I actually came here to the US to work in a summer camp for a few months. And my mom asked me what I wanted to study, and I said, I still don't know. And she enrolled me into marketing, and here I am today. So I owe a lot of where I am today to my mother's decisions. But in my career, I'd have to say, he's my current chief marketing officer. He's been a big inspiration, a big role model for me in the past. I've worked with him across, basically every country I've worked in. We've always followed each other around one way or another. And he's always been a big inspiration for me in terms of his strategic thinking, but more in terms of his people management. And I think that's always something which has stuck with me is surround yourself with people you want to work with, right? Good people and people you want to work with. If you're going to spend many hours in the office, you want to enjoy yourself there as well. And I think, another one that he said to me is find people that you trust and take them along for the ride. And that's stuck with me a lot. I think that's invaluable. If you've got people that you like, if you've got people that you trust in the work that you do, you take them along for the ride, you reward them, they're only going to build you up as well. And so, yeah, he's been a very big inspiration for me in my career and personally as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that for sure. Where can they find Air? Where can they look up stuff? How can they get information? If it's business, if it's personal, how can we get that out to them? Are you on social media? Let's talk about all of that.
Yeah, so we're on social media. We obviously OOKA USA on social media. If anybody would like to look us up on Instagram specifically, we've got a Instagram page there where you can see all the ongoings of OOKA and OOKA Pro, locations where the product is currently offered in HORECA venues. We also have us.ooka.com, which is the e-commerce platform, but there's also a lot more reading and information in there about the product. It's also an educational website if anybody wants to find out more about it. It's also got all of our contact details in there should you want to inquire about the products from a business perspective. Well, otherwise, if there's any individuals out there that want to go and purchase it and try it out, the e-commerce website's there. From a global organization, you can find out more about Air Global. The website is actually air.global. The new website actually just launched about 2 weeks ago. So it's got all the information about our company, our vision, our strategies, all the brands that are currently contained under our company. I think, and then one of our bigger brands that we do own is OOKA, which is the world's #1 hookah brand, actually. And OOKA, you can find out more on our US Instagram page, which is also OOKA USA. We just had a really big launch there with some partners that we're partnering with, some collabs and exciting stuff happening in the industry at the moment.
It's just so cool. And I love that an industry is growing around it internationally and that, it creates jobs, it creates taxpayer dollars that pay for communities and schools and all of it. It matters. Any way that we create jobs, guys, and we create more and we create business and people are happy and we create goodness in this world. I love it. I love this big time, what you're doing. And I love the social aspect. And I love that they chose you to do it. I think it's important, honestly. And I think it's taking someone to bridge the gap between worlds in some ways. The Middle Eastern customs and why we're familiar with it here. It's not as what I would call normal where we see it as, drinking wine or even now in Colorado, smoking marijuana. So, it's normalized. And I think that's pretty cool as well. So thank you for being on the show. Just one more time for me, Ashley, where can they find you guys online? Just so everyone gets it one more time.
Sure. Website, you can visit us.ooka.com. OOKA is spelled with 2 O's, OOKA. And you can find us on Instagram at OOKA_USA, as well as OOKA USA. And if you're looking for the Air website to find out more about the parent company, you can visit air.global.
Yeah, I love this. Everyone in the audience, I'm going to close out with this. Listen, I talk about it a lot, the 3 E's of leadership. I have a lot of E's of leadership, 18 of them that I base a lot of things on. But the most important ones are education, exposure, and experience. You have to get experience in what you want to do. That means even if you're failing at it, you obviously need to get some education. It doesn't need to be formally. And the exposure to the world. We can be international business people. We can be international leaders. We can lead well beyond our communities, or we can lead really well in our communities with this. It's not just something that came out of nowhere. There's a reason I chose a program that was outrageously expensive to go study around the world for 27 months with 139 individuals from 47 countries. It's that important, not only from a business standpoint, but from being a citizen of the world standpoint. And that's, one of the things that I really liked about this episode as I reflect, and I hope everyone reflects, is that open-mindedness is key. And even beyond that, an open-heartedness to the world. And not everything we see as different is always bad, and not everything that is bad is bad, and not everything that's good is good. Okay, so sometimes we twist things, or we get things, or we make them to be what it is. But in this case, what we're talking about here is when we come together as a group, we eat, drink, smoke, maybe we overindulge here and there sometimes. But the whole thing of it is not the overindulgence or what happened or what we're seeing. What's in the essence of those moments is humans coming together to be unified. And in the energy, when we produce things like hookahs or restaurants that bring families and people together to break bread or have loving moments or gain memories, it far outweighs just the food or the device we created. But we get to facilitate that in this world. That's what we get to take with us. And I'm really going to emphasize this. I was in long-term care homes. Guys, everyone knows I was in hospitals. I saw people at their end, always. Most of them regretted it was never not making more money. Of course you want money and you want to be okay, or life gets stressful, you're probably going to die earlier. But what I am saying is they'd never regretted not making more, but they regretted not doing more with their life. And having the things that they did, whether it was in business or with their kids, be more universal, meaning how they did one thing is how they did everything, or how they did one thing was basically the yarn that weaved their whole life. It was so common, it was so a part of their character and who they were that they were able to do more with it. Whether they were coaching, it wasn't just coaching soccer, it was more. And those individuals actually died very peacefully, comparatively. So I'm not just saying this because I believe in it or it's some mystical thing. No, when you spend 24 years in that business, having those conversations with those individuals and hearing the regrets and seeing the way we pass as humans, the things we get, the damages are often the way that we live and what we do with our lives and the way and what we do. So if we find things that enhance lives, they're great things. I'm telling you right now, what it does, I've seen it in my own house. I told you guys what my house was like for 4 years. It was fellowship, friends, family, community, until FSP kept growing and I got into building restaurants and restaurant equipment and distribution of fried chicken products all over the East Coast. I could have those things with just a business, but then we diversified and my business grew and things changed and I didn't have the time to manage it. But what we're saying here is now it's manageable. That's innovation. That's what we do as humans. We make things that are hard, like sweeping an entire house, and we create a vacuum cleaner. So thank you, Ashley. I appreciate you. I will put all the links, guys, for Air and all the subsidiaries and all the products and all the things that we mentioned will be in the episode notes, guys. I will put links in there to any specific products that I think are relevant or that you should pay attention to. I'm going to highlight it a little more than I do normally in episode notes just because I think it's worth paying attention to. Okay, when I say industries are being built on international level, it's not unknown that if someone does really well at hookahs, you could be stamping out a few restaurants, maybe even some franchises, maybe in whatever. Anything's possible. If you can have a dog cleaning, washing, nail trimming thing on a little wagon behind a car franchise, you can do this as a franchise. It's just going to take the right entrepreneur. And it's going to take one who's going to create jobs and create business and create taxes and create community. And realize that it's about the social aspect and bringing people together that's going to build the business. So anything else, Ashley, before we get off that you want to mention, maybe want to comment on what I just said before we let everyone go?
No, I think I'm all good for today, Justin. I just want to thank you very much for your time once again and taking the time to hear about OOKA and the exciting things which are coming up. I think you're right. There's an opportunity for people to grow with OOKA. And that's what we want, right? We want them to be able to offer more experiences to their consumers and help their revenue at the end of the day. Build more money for them. This isn't just a gadget. This is a money maker.
Yeah.
And that's how I want people to see it.
Yep. And you get to bring people together and break bread and have conversations and build memories in the process as a business person. And that's the more I'm talking about, everyone. If there's just that little bit more in the end, it's worth way more than you can ever imagine at the end. So this is something I'm talking about. Do things, build things, be open-hearted, be open-minded to things that maybe you wouldn't normally do. But if you see what it'll actually do for your business and grow that energy will become part of the food, become part of the hookah, become part of the community, become part of your restaurant. People want that energy, that wholesomeness. It lasts longer. Thank you, everyone. I love you guys, and we're out.